So the association's got a bit of a concerning contact from the Minnesota Department of Transportation on Friday. In particular, as folks know, inflation has been hitting a lot of our projects particularly hard. Bridge projects in particular have gone up about 200% since, or excuse me, about 100% since 2022. And what formerly had been a fairly well-funded town bridge account has now been spent out for the year already as of Friday. So the state level bridge account is already spent out with all of the potentially concerning implications that has for us as townships. Now, we're doing our best to work on this at the state level. Um, in particular, I'm going to throw a couple of bill numbers in the chat here, HF 200 and SF 877. Now, these are the ones that Shep in particular thinks is going to move the ball forward potentially and get us some relief on this particular issue. But I just thought I'd hop on and ask folks. It's the legislative break. Folks are back in their districts. If you're concerned about this, please do consider asking the rest of your town board to reach out on this one. Right, if you've got friends who are willing to talk to their legislators, this is potentially a big deal. We might start seeing a lot of town bridges end up on waiting lists now because of this issue. So funding has hit a pretty critical point, and this is what we think this is what we think our best shot is to potentially get some relief on that. So for folks who are worried about this, please do reach out to your state representative. Please do reach out to your state senator. HF 200 SF 877. Throwing those bill numbers in the chat. But honestly, if you just want to say, hey, please do something about this, you don't have to get particularly involved. Reno, I see you've got a hand there. Muted, Reno, sorry.
There, my clicker wasn't working well. My voice either. But anyway, this sounds important enough. Any chance that we can get one of those contact your legislator constant contacts sent out so
Yes.
that
So we've
we can reply and send messages to our legislative personnel?
yeah, great question, Reno. We've actually already drafted the letter on that one, and it should be going out today. I just thought I'd take the opportunity to get on here and talk to as many folks as I can because this is I think this is going to be a big deal. So
No, I appreciate you letting us know because sometimes we just get those constant contacts, and I don't think the urgency is really felt, when you read through that stuff. And so now that you've highlighted this for us, it gives those that are on the call this morning an opportunity, to put the word out too.
yeah,
So I appreciate that. And on the constant contact too, if you or Leslie can just go into, a little bit of detail as to the significance of it, I would really appreciate that.
copy that.
Copy that.
Thanks. Thanks, Leslie.
All right. Well, with that bit of a downer note, sorry, folks. Expect that one in your email before too terribly long here. Please do take a look and please do consider reaching out to your legislators. But all right, Maddie, please go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, it's always important to reach out to legislators on this issue and any issue that comes up. It's getting to know them is a really important part of township work. So I appreciate that, Graham. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. You should be able to see it now. Thanks, Pat. Okay, so today we're going to talk about special meetings. There are a couple kinds of special meetings. I'm going to talk about the notice required and what that looks like and things along those lines. So I have the chat pulled up. So I'll be ready to answer any questions throughout, and we'll have some time at the end as well. There's a couple questions in there regarding this legislation. So one is, are you going to send out constant comment thing so we can write to them? Yes. I think it would be important that counties do not have access to this bridge fund anymore. I know our county doesn't have access to this money. Yeah, so reach out to your legislators, let them know the importance of this and what it means to us. We have power in numbers. So the more people that reach out, it may seem small for one person to do it, but the more people that do it, it really does make an impact. So let everyone know to do it individually, and really be the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, because that's what causes change. Okay, so I will get started here. My name is Maddie Cash, for those of you who haven't seen me already, and I am an attorney with the association. Today we're going to talk about special meetings. First, I'm going to go over some MAT updates, and then I'll talk about special board meetings and what those are, notice requirements, and then special town meetings, because those are two different things, and what is required for those. And then we'll go over kind of questions at the end. All right, for MAT updates, Lori let me know that there will be a new ARPA video coming out soon. She might do that live. She might do it recorded, depending on the desire. So that will be something to look out for if you need help filling out those forms, or making those, submitting those that paperwork to ARPA. I know it's really complicated, and I've gotten a lot of questions on it too, so it'll be helpful to have a video out and be able to ask Lori questions when it does come out. Also, spring short courses makeup is in Bemidji on May 1st at the Stanford Center. We had to cancel for weather on that one, so that's coming up here soon. Lori said she's been getting calls on what time the Bemidji session begins. It's 8 o'clock, 8 a.m. for everyone who is attending that. So I will be there, Graham will be there, and all the same regular schedule that occurred at the other short courses. And then Town Law Review is May 30th. So if you are interested in attending that, look out for that news. I don't believe the sign up is on the website yet, but it is May 30th. So that's coming up. And then district meetings will start in August, and that information is on the website. So if you're interested in attending either of those, make sure to let us know. Okay. Let's get started. Special meetings. So a special meeting is really any meeting that is outside of a regularly scheduled meeting. It's called to usually address special business that comes up that's not considered an emergency. So anything that's in between the regular meeting schedule, of course, you can always change your regular meeting schedule at any board meeting. But if something comes up, typically you have to schedule a special meeting in order to comply with open meeting laws. Reno, I see you in the chat recommending a live session recorded. So for ARPA, so I will pass that message along. I believe Lori's on the video as well, so we'll note that. Thank you. All right, so the purpose of a special meeting, it's basically it's a tool to help townships address urgent or time-sensitive matters outside of their regular meetings. Because they are outside of the normal schedule, the open meeting law requires specific notice and agenda procedures to ensure transparency that goes along with any kind of open meeting requirement. The basis of open meeting law is to ensure that the public has access to the decision-making process and the decisions made by the township board. It's a law that is in place for the public. It is not in place for the convenience of township officers, and it is typically not very convenient. So these aren't they aren't fun laws to follow for us. Typically, they do require a lot of time and attention. So whenever you are kind of working with a meeting that is outside of your regular meeting, make sure that you just double check what the requirements are in any standard. But today I'm specifically talking about special meetings. So there are two types of special meetings. There are board meetings, special board meetings, and then special town meetings. Two different things. It'll say special town meeting in the statute that you're following, or it'll say special meeting or special board meeting. And the special board meeting is a meeting of the board that is outside of that regularly scheduled meeting on the regular meeting agenda that you guys post every year. But a special town meeting is for a gathering of the township's voters to make decisions on matters of the law that are assigned directly to the voters. Electors can only exercise their powers at an annual meeting. And if they don't do it at that annual meeting, then it has to be at a special town meeting. So it's two separate things, meeting of the board, and then it's a meeting of the electors. So they're two different things, and they have two different requirements on in terms of notice and what that looks like. Failing to follow these procedures that I'm going to go through can lead to obviously open meeting law violations, because that's what this is in place to uphold, but also invalidate any decisions that are made, cause the public to kind of lose confidence in the board, which is really important. It makes your job a lot easier when the electors trust that the board is not making decisions behind their back in secrecy or things like that. It's not done with malice, right? Nobody's intending to do things in secret, or I hope they aren't. But it's just accidents happen, and people don't know whether it's an accident or not. So whether you intended to not follow the guidance or not, it's going to cause the public to lose confidence and trust in the board if you don't. And then, of course, at the end of the day, it can cause legal challenges with these decisions that are made, or liability issues down the road. But following these rules will protect the township's integrity and make sure the actions that the board goes through are properly carried out, and that the township is informed and involved in the decision-making process as they're required to be. So first, I'll talk about special board meetings. So when the board is meeting for a different time or location or place that is listed on their regular meeting schedule, then they have to call it a special board meeting. So this goes with if you have a specific time, place, or location listed on your regular meeting schedule and you intend to change that, any of those, then you would have to call or provide notice as if it were a special meeting. So if somebody wants to attend via Zoom or something like that, that's likely a change in location. So you would have to go through this process to notify people that that location has changed, right? It's changed to an online location. But that goes with date, time, or location. So any of those changes, you'll need to provide notices if it's a special meeting. Now, I will discuss notice on the next slide, so I'm not going to go into that too much, but I do want to note that these are not for emergency meetings or closed meetings. Obviously, the township can handle emergency situations. They are able to do that regardless of the open meeting law, but you want to keep that specifically to issues that require imminent attention to health and safety of people in the township. Usually for townships, that only has to do with weather incidents, a washed out road, for example. So you want to make sure that you provide the notice only if it's not an emergency meeting. Emergency meetings require notice to anyone who has requested notice from the township. However, I don't often see that media outlets do request notice for emergency meetings from the township. Okay, in the chat, Chuck says, Maddie, we've been using special board meetings as a work meeting when needed to do specific business. However, we also add in some safety inspections and safety training for the board. Is that allowable? The training is only for a few minutes for the board. Otherwise, we intend to have the AWARE type training on specific dates. So you can include those meetings on your regular meeting schedule as well. If you provide notice properly for a special meeting, that's fine too. Yeah, that's allowed to have those trainings in public if you're doing them as a board, right? So violations of the open meeting law come when there are those three requirements: a quorum of the board, exchanging information about township business. So if that's going to be happening, you do have to give notice. So in those situations, you would probably have to give notice, whether it be by special meeting notice or you include those meetings on your regular meeting schedule. You can include any meetings of the board or their commissions or whatever boards that they create on that regular meeting schedule so that you don't have to later on provide special notice once those meetings come up. So when you don't have that notice on the regular meeting schedule, you'll want to think about, is this an emergency meeting? Is this a closed meeting? Because closed meetings are generally start as a special meeting usually, but they have to be noticed separately. So before you start the meeting, think about what type of meeting it is, and then think about what kind of notice it needs. So these are not closed meetings. These are not emergency meetings. This is a different issue. So if those two come up, make sure to check the requirements as well. And I want to stress specifically when you're intending to do a closed meeting that you look up those requirements, because they're very specific. There are very few times when the board can actually close a meeting or have a closed session in a meeting. And many boards go their whole career without being able to close a meeting one time. And each reason why you close a meeting, right, to meet with an attorney or to go over real estate options, they all have their own separate requirements. So when you're intending to close a meeting, be sure to contact our office and your attorney's office to follow the procedures properly for that specific issue. Also, the board can choose to continue their meeting. So if you get to the end of one of your regular meetings and you're just not done discussing whatever issues have come up that day, you can always continue the meeting for later on that week, in a few days, as long as you don't adjourn the meeting and you list in the minutes the place and time of that continued meeting when you'll pick up again. So that's always an option too, so you don't have to provide that special notice if that comes up. All right, special meeting notice. So for special board meetings specifically, the notice of the date, time, and place and purpose of the meeting must be posted on the town's bulletin board. The statute says 3 days in advance. However, we suggest 5 days because the date of the meeting doesn't count and the date of posting doesn't count. So you want to do it 5 days in advance. And you have to put the agenda in there, and you can only talk about those agenda items that are listed. You'll want to avoid vague agenda items such as township business, right? You want to be specific about what you're going to be discussing and not try to skirt around it. I would say if it feels like you're trying to skirt around the open meeting law, you probably are, because the courts often rule in favor of the public having access to information. So trying to shortcut those, it's just not going to work out. So you want to be very specific about what that agenda is going to look like, rather than just stating something vague, to be able to kind of have free reign about that discussion. Make sure to give yourself enough time for these special meetings. I know sometimes it feels like an emergency, right? If you forgot to pay a bill or something along those lines, but I promise you the world won't fall apart. You have time. Government is very slow, so because of these requirements. So don't worry about trying to get things done quickly because you need to have that 5 days notice in order to have these meetings, unless it's that emergency situation, of course, where somebody is going to be injured if you don't take action right now, right? Because next time, if you do hold an emergency meeting, the next time you meet in an open meeting, you'll have to explain why you were unable to meet the requirements of the open meeting law in that last emergency meeting. So make sure to give yourself enough time, slow down, provide that proper notice, and go through the procedures required so that you don't have the backlash from it. A lot of people think that publishing notice is required for these special board meetings. It's not. The township can publish notice as an alternative to mailing notice to people who have requested notice, because people who have a request from the township in writing notice of these special meetings, they have to be notified by mail or in person, hand delivery, right? 3 days in advance of this special meeting. So if you don't want to do that, then you can publish notice as an alternative to that. But it is not required I know publishing is expensive. So if you want to avoid publishing when you can, this is one of those times where you don't have to publish notice for a special board meeting. Oh, question in the chat. If nobody has requested notice, then all you need to do is post. Correct. Yes. If no one has requested from your township special notice or notice of these special board meetings, then all you need to do is that 5 days posted notice of the time, place, and purpose of the meeting. If there is a closed session at this special meeting, so if part of the meeting is going to be closed, you'll want to provide notice of those separately. So let people know that, hey, this is when the closed meeting will happen and where and what that will be regarding, depending on the topic. So you'll want to provide separate notice for those. All right, so for the agenda and minutes of the special board meetings, you can only cover what was listed in that posted agenda, right? I already discussed that, but minutes can be taken like any other meeting. Recording the meeting is not required unless you are in that closed session of the meeting. Then you do likely have to record the meeting unless it's a meeting with your attorney. Then you don't need to record that. You'll discuss that with your attorney and what that looks like as well. But when it is a closed session, you do need to record it, but it's not required for just regular special board meetings that are open to the public. All right, special town meetings. So special town meetings are different. They are, so an annual meeting, it's kind of like a continued annual meeting. The annual meeting is typically held on the second Tuesday in March, right? We all know that. But when issues arise that require elector action before the next annual meeting, then you can call a special town meeting. So this is a meeting of the township, not of the board, separate thing, but it gets confusing a lot because they have very similar names. Sometimes when you're reading statute, you'll come across this and you'll think special board meeting, special town meeting, and they have separate requirements. So keep that in mind when you're reading to make sure you're reading it carefully. So the township electors at these meetings will gather to vote on decisions that are assigned to them in law. So the law will assign the electors certain powers. They can only exercise those powers during an annual meeting or during a special town meeting. So those are the only two times they can do those things. You can certainly take into account the elector's position at your regular board meetings, but when the statute requires a vote from the electors They can only do that at these special town meetings or at the annual meeting. I'll go over in detail how a special meeting is called in the next slide here. But it's basically for the voters when they need or desire a voter input or action to be taken in the town. Statutes reference calling a special meeting to hold a special election sometimes, but those are for a ballot question. The statute will say to call a special town meeting to hold an election or present a ballot question. Those are typically now understood to be special elections rather than special town meetings. But they have similar notice requirements for a regular town election. So if it calls for a ballot question or something along those lines, then it's a different requirement for a special election. Okay, so I'm going to go over how a special town meeting is called. The procedures of this are in 365.52. Well, they start in 365.52 Minnesota statutes, and then they go to 0.58. So it's through those statutes if you want to take a look. But a special town meeting is typically called by the town board or by the town voters when there's a need for voter input. For example, the town may call a special meeting to reconsider the annual levy if they have a unexpected funding need that comes up throughout the year, or seek voter approval for a town building, or relocation of a town hall, reopening a minimum maintenance road, or not a minimum maintenance road, a road that hasn't been maintained for 25 years. There's statutes that will designate when this elector permission is required. It'll say that in the statute. Anytime you need to know what the procedure is, you can go look at the statute and it'll tell you what you need in order to carry out this power. And if it says that you need the elector's approval, or like the statute will typically say language that says like the electors may let the board do XYZ. And that's how you know you need input from the electors in order to make these decisions. In general, any matter that the voters can address at the annual town meeting can also be addressed at a special town meeting. So they're just a copycat of the annual meeting, but held at a different time. There are some exceptions to that. Some statutes limit actions to the annual meeting or to the election. For example, the decision to allow Sunday liquor sales, a town must make that decision on the day of the annual town officer election. So you can't have that at a separate time. But again, all these procedures will be laid out for you in the statute. If you're ever wondering what that requirement is, reach out to Graham or myself, and we will be able to discuss that. Question from Chuck: how about a special town meeting for establishing a cartway, or is this more appropriate for a public hearing? So cartway doesn't require a input from the electors in that way. So a public hearing is separate from a input from the electors, right? Some things require a public hearing, which means that the board has to hear from the voters in the township. They have the right to speak at those meetings, where at a regular board meeting, they don't have that ability. You can always give it to them. Many times townships do. But public hearings are where the electors have the ability to voice their opinion on a certain matter. Now, that's different from these special town meetings where the statute says the electors may let, right? That's the language that we're looking for when we're talking about these special town meetings. If a public hearing is required, the statute will say that as well. So those are two separate things. Good question. If the board ever does not anticipate the voters to exercise one of their powers, and there's no need to call a special town meeting, they can hold a public hearing or a board meeting that for public input if they want, right? So if they don't intend to hold one of these exercise powers, but they think, oh, I should really get input from the voters on this issue, then they can hold a public hearing as they wish. That's always an option. All right, so notice for these special town meetings is a little bit different. The township must include a statement indicating why they are calling the intended business and the interest of the town, include it on the petition or statements of the board. Then the clerk must give 10 days published notice of the time, place, and purpose of the meeting. If there is an alternative to publish a notice, that must be posted as directed by the town board unless the electors at the annual meeting direct otherwise, but we recommend that you publish. So these do require published notice unless it's directed. The board can determine that it's not directed, but we recommend that you do publish notice just to give people the best opportunity to attend these meetings, and it is part of the requirement unless the board has said otherwise. We have a sample of the notice or petition and statements of the board available on our website if you're interested in calling a special town meeting. That is under our document TM 2000 at the very bottom. So it can be called by either the electors or the town board, and the process to do that is all listed out in that TM 2000. It's just a fill in the blank. So it's easy to kind of carry those out if you're interested. But remember that we do recommend that you publish notice for a special town meeting if you intend to hold one of these, which is separate from the requirement to post notice for the board meetings when they have a special meeting. And whatever power that you intend that the electors tend to carry out should be listed in that petition or statement of the board, and make sure that you include what statute you're following, what rules require you to hold this, and those kinds of things. All right, and then here are the steps for following a proper special town meeting. So first, one of those specified groups will call the meeting, files a statement or petition with the town clerk to call the special town meeting. The clerk files the statement in the town records and publishes 10 days notice after that, and then the clerk calls a meeting to order within an hour of the meeting's conveyance, and the electors select a moderator conduct the meeting. It's much like an annual meeting, right? It's because it's just a copycat of the annual meeting held at a different time. So again, if the moderator is the clerk, then the electors will have to select somebody else to take the minutes. That can be the deputy clerk, or someone else that is deemed available. Then the moderator states the order of business and explains the scope of the meeting, why they are there, what they are addressing, and conducts the meeting while the clerk keeps the minutes. And again, if it's not the clerk keeping the minutes, whoever is taking the minutes is then doing that. And then the participants conduct the scheduled business. This is a meeting of the electors. It is not a meeting of the board. So you continue as though it is an annual meeting where the board is not making decisions, but rather the electors are. So then the board can go reconvene at a later open meeting and make whatever decisions they need to make based on the decisions made at that special town meeting. So it's not a meeting of the board. You want to have a separate board meeting, whether that's right after or at the next town meeting, in order to conduct board business. And then finally, Upon a motion and a positive vote from the majority of the electors, the moderator adjourns the meeting and or continues the meeting in the same manner, right? That we talked about with board meetings where you can say we continue this meeting to another date. You just don't want to use that magic word adjourn if you're going to continue the meeting. But that is an option too with these special town meetings. And then finally, someone files the minutes in the clerk's office 2 days after the meeting is adjourned. And then you have conducted your special town meeting properly, and you can hear from the voters at a more lenient time period rather than that once a year if you want to take those actions that require board or township input. All right, that is all I have in terms of special meetings. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any more in the chat, but if anyone has anything they'd like to discuss, I'm happy to do that too. All right, that is all I've got then. Thank you all. I hope you have a great Easter and a great week.
All right, thank you, Maddie.